land is a potential matter of conflicts now.
Bribery.
Omuntu addira ekikyamu n'akifuula ekituufu, ekituufu n'akifuula ekikyamu.
A weakness in the system.
Omwami wange bwe baamusibira yandeka nga naakafuna olubuto.
Mpulira bw'obutala bataata.
To stop people suffering. People don't have a human heart.
Land is everyone's identity and source of survival. It is the single most important determinant of a rural family's livelihood and well-being. But what is meant to be a source of livelihood for rural communities has instead become the source of conflict, insecurity, and suffering. Today, nearly all regions throughout Uganda are experiencing land evictions which have resulted into food insecurity, loss of cultural and social belonging, increased school dropout rate, breakdown in social services, and constant harassment and intimidation by those who are supposed to protect them.
If you go to prisons, you find so many people who are charged with capital offenses arising out of land-related disputes.
12-year-old Sharon Chasimire is a victim of land-related arrests. Sharon's father, Paul Katsigire, was arrested 2 years ago following a land dispute involving the community of Bunakabwa village, Manyogaseka sub-county in Mubende district, and an individual. Katsigire has since been in detention with 4 others at Muinaina prison in Mubende district without trial.
Wagenda kuchanga mama alia nga bamututedde. Wagenda kulaba tuulya mbwaliya naye tumumanyi gyali.
Bwali kiro sawa 9 ne bamutwala. Okuva olwo bamutwala ne batugamba bamututte Mubende. Enkeera ne tugendayo nga bamwongerayo ne Muinaina.
This marked the beginning of Sharon's suffering and the entire family. Discussing what she has had to endure in the absence of her dad is the toughest subject for Sharon. She is forced to pose amidst a sentence to fight tears out of her eyes that are filled with a lot of anguish.
A person
who catches fishes
is called.
Sharon is a primary 3 pupil of Munakabwa Citizen Primary School. However, Sharon is an irregular school attendant.
Since her father was taken to jail, she has not been coming to school regularly.
Sharon misses classes because she has to babysit her siblings whenever their mother goes for casual labor in the fields to secure family necessities like soap and paraffin. Missing classes has affected Sharon's academic performance.
If Sharon's father was not arrested, she would have attended all the school days at school. If she had all scholastic materials and attends regularly, she would have been the best in our school.
Besides absenteeism, the situation positions Sharon among the needy pupils in her school. For the 2 years that her father has spent in detention without trial, Sharon has not been able to meet her school dues. This means that Sharon is about to join the long list of Uganda's school dropouts.
We let Sharon study only 1 year. But since this year began, they have also not paid the school fees. So we can't let Sharon study next year.
Sharon is required to pay 30,000 shillings per term. But as Sharon continues to pray that her father gets justice so that she can further her education, her 1.5-year-old brother has never seen his dad.
Omwami wange bwe baamusibira yandeka nga naakafuna olubuto. Era omwana kati ali mu mwaka gumu kitundu. Talabanga ku kitaawe era n'ekitaawe tamumanyi. sente ezigendayo omulabako mu kkomera nazo zambula.
Another worrying situation for Sharon's family is the state of their family house. The house is incomplete with no doors and windows, posing a security threat to the occupants.
Abaana empewo ebafuuwa era nsula nkuumye.
In the neighborhood lives an expectant mother whose husband, Crispo Buyondo, is a detainee over the same land dispute. He was arrested 6 months ago. Although Sarah Nakato's health situation requires her full attention, her major worry currently is a bank loan that was taken by her husband before the arrest.
Yeewole sente mu bank za Centenary nga musuubuzi wa birime. Ekibanja sikyasobola kusasula ndi bwomu ndi mulwadde n'abaana.
Nakato stays in this house alone despite her condition. However, this house was recorded as a loan security. Therefore, if Nakato's husband continues to be denied justice, very soon Nakato may not have a place to call home. Detention without trial of 5 household heads is clear evidence of institutional connivance.
They collude with the RDCs, collude with the police officers. I hear some of them even bring army people, I don't know where they get them from. They collude with the magistrates, and the peasants have no voice.
Land evictions and resultant human rights violations have become an almost daily occurrence in Mubende district, deflating land laws and presidential directives.
Mubende is a challenging district when you talk about land problems, and I cannot say I have a village where people are peaceful. Every village is full of problems of land.
Land is a potential matter of conflicts now, if I may say, in the whole country.
In September 2013, over 300 people from 3 villages in Bweyongedde Parish, Kalwana Sub-County, Mubende District, were forcefully displaced from their ancestral land by an alleged landlord. Among the displaced is 32-year-old Zain Nabukalu, who did not only lose her land, property and identity, but her dignity too. During eviction, Nabukalu was gang-raped by 4 men. This ugly incident occurred 2 days after Nabukalu had just returned from hospital upon giving birth to her 4th-born child.
I was raped by 4 men.
Nabukalu's life has never remained the same, with her tormentors still at large.
Justice has overdelayed, and yet the attackers are continuing with the destruction of our gardens and property.
Justice is the general outcry for land victims countrywide. But what is the cause for delayed justice?
Bribery. But I know them now.
A weakness in the system, because we should be monitored and evaluated. If at the end of like 3 months, they should audit us.
We are thin on the ground. We do not have enough or adequate personnel, especially at the High Court level.
Enguzi y'abasusi, enguzi yalidde eggwanga lino muganda wange. Omuntu addira ekikyamu n'akifuula ekituufu, ekituufu n'akifuula ekikyamu.
Protracted litigation often eats away time and resources of poor households that would otherwise be used in development engagements.
Kati buli namalayo wiiki 4 owulidde kaakati ne ku luno kati buli lunaku neewuuba mu kooti tewali kikola kikolebwa owulidde kati guli tegunnaba kuggwa ate bataddewo omulala.
In the Albertine region, communities too are facing extinction as oil developments take root. It was darkness at noon for over 50 families of Ramutonga village, Bugembe sub-county in Hoima district, when the police used live bullets to execute an eviction on the 25th of August 2014.
We only wake up when it's threatened completely. We saw that it was the gunshot and the burning of the of the houses.
The land is alleged to have been sold by John Tibagwa's daughter to an investor intending to construct an oil treatment plant. However, communities were not compensated before being evicted.
We have gone to several offices. Our files are everywhere.
This gruesome eviction was commanded by Hoima Deputy Resident District Commissioner Ambrose Mesigwa, defying protocol orders from his superiors.
All evictions involving peasants are halted.
I was in touch with the people that were carrying out the eviction.
Nze nga RDC samusindiseeyo nti agende mu maaso okola ki okugobaganya abantu ku ttaka. Ekyokubiri era teyansiibudde nti agenda okugobaganya abantu ku ttaka.
Naye ekisinga okwenyamiza okuba nti ate ffe abandikuumye abantu baffe, ffe abakulembeze, ate ffe twetabye nabali okubatulugunya.
It is such loopholes that land grabbers exploit and evict vulnerable masses. Ramutonga houses and household properties were burnt, including granaries.
It is pure greed and people not being human.
Tituine kyokulya, amaizi tituina, obujanjabi tituina, kandi tuina baana bakusoma. Obwire busembera ine bwa baana agenda kero kyo musanju. Baana tibakutulagana hasomero.
This IDP camp, setting with makeshift structures, is now their new home. A Samaritan offered this piece of land for the evicted community to have temporary shelter. But the health and hygiene situation of communities here is worrying. There is no nearby health facility, yet some people are already sick in this camp.
Any kit nyatin weremo bila silingi pira bit nisingi okoya ni nyatinde dongu judongo paga fumendi mitolarwa agena foyo uana jikumeni.
Samuel Oruru helplessly carries his 3-year-old son. This infant is suffering from malaria, but unfortunately he has not received any medication for 3 days now.
Ana aketo lembesheka ising Mungu. Tek Mungu konyo wa, Mungu bikonyo wa. Kumgafumendi kwero ni neno wa kupeko mutimo wa.
It's malaria and hunger. Having a meal is the greatest luck for any family here. Some children feast on anything that they come across, while parents with many children are feeling the burden.
Abana benazala ngambaga kakati mpulya mbeta midwa olw'obuzibu bwennina kati bwenkulu.
But who is supposed to protect these vulnerable citizens' land rights?
We have, like under the law, we have that section 29 of the Land Act, which recognizes bona fide and lawful occupants on the land. I've told you those who have been on the land for a long time, either paying busuru to the landlord, or they have been there for a long time. So we protect them. The law protects them.
Despite the existence of laws, amendments, and presidential directives in place, land evictions continue to spread like bushfire. Whereas dual ownership seems to be the center of contention in central Uganda, land conflicts in the northern region are attributed to the LRA insurgency that confined natives in internally displaced people's camps.
In the process of returning, there have been so many instances of disagreement on who owns which portion of land in the villages.
Before the war, 78-year-old Achaye Ola had 100 acres on which he had settled for over 18 years in Amuru Town Council, Amuru District. The war forced him to live in a camp in 1996, but although other families have since resettled on their land, Achaye has never been resettled because his land was grabbed. Achaye began his land struggles with the local traditional judicial system, went through all LC levels, and to date, the case is before Gulu High Court. It has been a long and painful journey, costing Achaye's faith.
An tama kokot ni kot ananani jalegre tigile maduong tika gao kama anadonyo yeo gilim hiuno koyang dulmo matie marong bino kari utali kinwa kinyorori mo gidano paparuno pa betkitianu.
The distance and costs involved has barred Achaye from attending all court sessions. Achaye must part with 20,000 shillings as transport fare from Amuru to Gulu and back. This is far above Achaye's investment capital of the charcoal business. Besides, he is expected to transport witnesses to court.
Most of the land in Acholi here is not documented. The boundaries are also not certain. Long ago, people used to rely on physical features, a tree, an anthill somewhere, a river somewhere. But as time goes on, these features are getting lost. So what is happening in court here is that people do rely on evidence of witnesses who are human beings.
This has worsened Achaye's vulnerability and hypertension condition. In the pastoral land of Karamoja sub-region, land evictions are mainly perpetrated by external forces. Communities are losing grazing land to mineral extraction, but what is disappointing to communities is that they are never consulted or involved in these developments.
Those ones are using top-bottom approach, not bottom-top approach, which is very dangerous. Because even climbing a tree, you ought to climb a tree from down, and then you reach the branches.
Rupa sub-county is one of the biggest sub-counties in Karamoja and endowed with natural resources. Land here is communally owned and majorly acquired through inheritance with no documentation. Marble is one of the minerals found in the sub-county. Its exploration in Lopusak village displaced the Mathaniko community and their human activities.
Well, I used to have my kraals inside there. I used to have my kraals here, but I no longer bring my animals, my goats, my cows here for a number of years, because now it has been taken up by the investor, and we may be taken as trespassers, you see.
The site is fenced off and barred from any human intrusion.
And there is even a shrine where the local communities go and worship. It's just somewhere here on the western side of the hill here. There is a shrine where the Karamojong go and worship.
Hani abuniani etana kwapana ebe adikina tamari ezudokini nyeyokini hani bona abuniani etoro mana akiru ya tama na papa igin koringil kori akada madhi akiru ekevi donga yokwa.
Cattle is the source of food for the Karamojongs. Its absence is regarded by many here as a sign of food insecurity. This is reflected in the manner in which both the young and the old feed on a few grains of raw sorghum. They are not willing to give up on their land.
This is our land. God created us here. Our fathers produced us here. So the land is ours.
Every region, district and village throughout Uganda has its own tale about land eviction and its related human rights violations. But the question remains, what are the leaders doing about it? To some leaders, the perpetrators are powerful and politically connected. Leaders are therefore left with no choice but to lament and at worst get emotional.
And normally the people who are evicted are very powerful people. It's not every Tom, Dick and Harry who has acquired land recently who goes evicting people.
If only we had the capacity to expedite land cases, this would go a long way at least in mitigating potential land conflicts, and also it would go a long way of giving confidence to the people that, yes, I can access the courts, get timely justice. So far,
sincerely, I sympathize with those people in Bunakawa and neighboring areas.
It's really annoying to serve people suffering. People don't have a human heart, but it is very annoying.
Forced land eviction is a social economic evil that grossly retards development of individuals, families, communities, and the country at large. Institutions and individuals therefore need to observe the relevant legal framework in order to protect vulnerable citizens from this kind of suffering.